Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is English Hangout. Today, I want us to look at an integral part of English language, which is a subject matter tagged agreements in English. Some scholars also refer to these concepts as concord. Concord is a concept in English language that emphasizes or highlights the relationship between a part of a sentence. Such relationship exists between the subject of a sentence, which can be a noun or a pronoun, as well as agrees with the verb of that particular sentence. Moving on, this subject matter can be categorized under two subtopics. But for today, I want us to look at just an aspect of concord, which is the subject and verb agreements. Under the subject and verb agreements, I want us to look at just two parts. The first one has to do with grammatical concord. Grammatical concord. Number two has to do with compound subjects. The compound subjects. And finally, I want us to explore the concord of proximity. Concord of proximity. Subjects and verb agreements. So this subject and verb agreement is subdivided into three components, which is grammatical concord, compound subjects, as well as concord of proximity. Just like I said earlier, that concord, English language is a language governed by rules. As such, we should adhere strictly with the rules that govern that particular language. Under the grammatical concord, the rule states that the subject of a sentence should always agree with the verb. The subject of a sentence should always agree with the verb. This means that when the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb also should be in its singular state. When the subject is plural, the verb also should be plural. For example, sentence 1, Nneka is a student. Nneka is a student. Nneka here is a singular subject. A singular subject. Is here is a singular verb. Therefore, the verb here, which is agrees with the subject of that sentence, which is Nneka. Sentence 2, Dr. Gab and Wale are friends. Dr. Gab is an entity. Wale is an entity. This is being connected by an. This makes this particular sentence a plural. Here we have what? A plural subject. Here is also a plural verb. Therefore, this subject, which is plural, agree with the verb, which is also plural. There is something I want you to also know, that when we are dealing with nouns generally, we have boy in its singular state. the plural form is boys. Whereas if you are dealing with verb, lexical verb will definitely take s, writes, in its singular form. The plural form will be what? Write. Therefore we can have he writes. Singular verb, write, a singular subject, they write. Therefore for verb that do take s will be in the singular form, while those without s will be in the plural state. Therefore the first rule states when the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb also should be singular, just as we have on the white board. In the second part has to do with compound subject rules. In a situation where we have bread and butter dash my favorite food, because we said the other time that a singular subject should always attract a singular verb, while a plural subject should always attract a plural verb. But in a situation like this where we have bread and butter dash my favorite food, let's assume you have an option A, are, B, is. Because we have an entity here and also we have another entity here which is being connected by an, what will you go for? Some will rather go for are, while some other students will stick with is. But this, there is, Concord is being governed by rules, and also there are exceptions to rules. That is on one hand. On the other hand, in line with the second rule that we are looking at, which is a situation where we have a compound subject. If we have bread here and butter and they are functioning as an entity, for example, it is easy to eat bread and butter as a food. They represent just an idea or a concept. As a result, bread and butter here is functioning as a singular subject. As a singular subject. Therefore, the verb that must agree with this subject, despite the fact that we have an here, should also be what? Singular. Bread and butter is my favorite food, not bread and butter are my favorite food. The reason is that bread and butter is functioning here as an idea, as an entity. Therefore, this is a singular subject. But in a situation where we have bread and eba, you know, it is very difficult for a sane human being to eat bread and eba at the same time. This is a noun. Butter here is a noun. Bread separate noun, butter separate noun. But these two nouns go together as a meal. Therefore, they represent an entity. As a result, they are considered as what? Singular subjects. Therefore, they should attract a singular verb. Bread and butter is my favorite food. Gari and soup. Gari is a noun, soup is a noun. These two also can go together as a meal. Therefore, it will attract a what? A singular verb. Gari and soup is my favorite food. Let's assume we have a noun of this form: bread and eba. Bread is a noun, a separate noun. Eba here is also a separate noun. But these two cannot go together. A sane human being cannot take these two together and it will go together. It is not possible. In that situation, this may attract a. Bread and eba are my favorite food. 2. Still under compound subjects. In a situation where we have a sentence of this form, the principal and managing director dash arrived. A. Let's assume we have options A, as, option B, have. Still under compound subjects. Here we have the principal. This is a separate noun. Managing director. This is also a separate noun. What do you think this particular subject will attract? Will it attract as a verb or have? The simple rule is that the principal here is an entity. Managing director, although it is a noun on its own, but this principal is the same person that we are referring to as the managing director. That shows that this principal and the managing director is a what? Is a person. We are still referring to the same person as the principal and the same person as the managing director. As a result, this particular sentence will attract a singular verb. The principal and managing director has arrived. But if we have the principal and we have article D here, article D, the moment we have article D here, this particular principal is an entity now. The managing director here is also another person. That shows that this particular subject here is what? A plural subject. Therefore, it should attract a plural verb. Therefore, we can't have here, we can't have as here. The appropriate verb that will suit this particular sentence will be the principal and the managing director have arrived. So, if we have two nouns and the two noun is still serving the same purpose, it still refer to the same person in that sentence, it will always attract a singular verb. But if the entity we are dealing with has to do with, if the two entities we are dealing with serves different purpose, just as we have the principal and the managing director, plural subject, the verb also should be plural. In a situation where we have bread and beans, bread and butter is my favorite food. The managing director and the principal is the managing director and the principal have arrived. Rule number 3. Rule number 3 is a situation where we have intervening phrase. Intervening phrase. Some scholars also refer to this rule as accompaniment concord. Accompaniment concord. When we have expression of this form, Tolu as well as our friends dash traveling tomorrow. In a sentence, it is possible we have intervening phrases or accompaniment words. How can you identify accompaniment words? Example of accompaniment words are words like as well as, in conjunction with, in addition to, as well as, in conjunction with, in addition to. These are examples of accompaniment word or intervening phrases. When we have words like these in a sentence, if you are to choose the verb that will complete such an expression, the accompaniment word should not be considered. The subjects, the first subject we have before the accompaniment words will determine the appropriate verb. Therefore, Tolu as well as our friends dash traveling tomorrow. Tolu here will serve as the subject. Therefore, Tolu is an entity. The verb should also be in the singular form. Therefore, we can have Tolu as well as our friend is traveling tomorrow. That is a part. Channels TV are in collaboration with Africa Independent Television. Channels TV in collaboration with Africa Independent Television dash Channels TV in collaboration with African Independent Television dash the events. Channels TV in collaboration with Africa Independent Television. Channels TV is a television station. Africa Independent Television, it's also another word, entity. Despite the fact that we have a noun here and we have another word, noun here, does not mean this subject here is what? Is a plural. Channels TV in collaboration with Africa Independent Television. Channels TV here comes first before the accompaniment words or before the intervening phrase. Therefore, the verb that will suit this particular expression should be in its singular state. Channels TV. Channels TV presents the event. Presents the event. Mind you, we said lexical verb. If they are if lexical verb are in its present state, they often attract s. Present, presents, singular. Present, this is plural, this is singular. The same way we have what? Writes, singular verb. Writes, plural verb. Therefore, what this rule states is that if there is to be a choice of verb, whether singular or plural, the first subject in that sentence will dictate the appropriate verb that will complete that sentence. Example 1, example 2, example 3. The teachers as well as as well as study dash the teacher as well as study the teacher as well as study dash the teachers as well as study dash the orientation camp. The teachers as well as study. The first subject here is the teachers, as well as study here is the accompaniment words or intervening phrase. Therefore, the teachers here serve as the subject of the sentence. The teacher here is what? A plural subject. Therefore, the verb here should also be plural. The teacher as well as study grace the orientation camp. So, when you are to consider the appropriate verb to choose in a situation where you have an intervening phrase or accompaniment concord, the first subject will dictate the verb, not the accompaniment phrase. That is for intervening phrase or accompaniment concord. The next objective is to highlight 3 questions in line with the JAMB exam. I come across some questions, 3 questions respectively, in line with some of the 3 rules that we exposed ourselves to. I want us to look at the questions and at the same time attempt those questions. Employer, not the salesman. Not the salesman here is an accompaniment item, or what we can refer to as intervening phrase. Therefore, if we are to choose the appropriate verb that will suit this particular sentence, this first subject, which is the employer, should indicate the appropriate verb that will suit this expression. Here we have been. B, we have was. C, we have will be. D, we have were. Have been, this is a plural verb. If you remember the last time in my previous class, I think my first class on this platform, we looked at as, have, and had, and I said as is the singular form, have is the plural form, had is the past tense of both as and have. Therefore, have been here is a plural subject, was here is a singular subject, will be can also serve, that is modal auxiliary, will can also serve as a singular verb, were here is a plural verb. Therefore, the employer, not the salesman, dash responsible for the loss. This is a no, this is a no also. The answer is B. The employer, not the salesman, was responsible for the loss. Trial and error. If you remember vividly in the second or the third rule we looked at, I said in a situation where we have a noun and another separate noun, but if the 2 now are performing the same role or can go together, therefore they serve as a singular subject. Trial and error dash in success. A, results. B, results. C, resulted. D, reoccur. Trial and error, this is a singular subject. Therefore, the verb also should be singular. Result is a plural verb. Results is a singular verb. C, resulted is a past tense verb. Here we have reoccur. which is also a verb. But this particular trial and error is a singular subject, therefore the verb also should be singular. Trial and error results in success, not trial and error results in success. And finally, we have NTA and AIT in collaboration with STV proudly dash Miss Nigeria 2024. NTA and AIT, this is an entity, this is also an entity. This NTA is a different body on its own. AIT is another body on its own. This shows that the subject here is plural. In collaboration with STV is the accompaniment or intervening phrase in that sentence. Therefore, it should not be considered when we are to choose the appropriate verb that will flow with this sentence. NTA and AIT. A. Presents. B. Presents. C. Presents. D. Prevented. We said this is a plural subject, therefore the verb should also be plural. Present here is a plural verb. NTA and AIT in collaboration with STV proudly present Miss Nigeria 2024. We've tried to examine or to look at 3 rules in line with the grammatical concord part. We've looked at, as time progresses, we'll have to look at the notional part, we have to look at the proximity part, we have to look at the many A. In a situation where we have many A concord, what are the noun that should follow this particular expression, at the same time the verb that must be used. Thank you for watching the first part of Agreements in English. Thank you for supporting English Hangout. I hope to see you next time. Do have a lovely day ahead.